to myself, what a wonderful world.
All right, welcome. Tonight we have with us the wonderful Shaletha Marshall. Did I pronounce that correctly? Yes?
Yes, you did.
Okay, wonderful, great. It is a pleasure to have you here, Shaletha. Shaletha is a divorce coach, and she is committed to helping women in the space of moving from trauma, and to beyond in their divorce journey. So I'm going to let you tell it best and introduce yourself, because I never do it justice, and you have such a rich body of work. I want you to share who you are first with us and let everybody know who you are.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on today. Like she said, I am Shaletha Marshall. I am a life and divorce coach. I am a mother, an entrepreneur, and an author of several books. And my journey began when I was going through a divorce myself. And during that time, I didn't have a real support system. I didn't have anyone that I could ask questions from or anyone to help guide me through that process. So I was basically just literally walking day by day, just figuring it all out as I went. And at the same time, still trusting my ex-husband on the things that he was telling me. So for me, I almost could have got lost a lot in the process if I wouldn't have got a lawyer literally in a nick of time. His lawyer contacted me and was like, oh, he filed for a divorce. So all you have to do is just fill out this waiver and we'll get the divorce started. So I was like, well, okay, sure. This obviously what he wants to do. Let me sign the paperwork and go for it. Cause I'm the type of person where I'm not gonna make nobody stay with me or beg anyone. So, I signed the paperwork, got it notarized and sent it back over. And like I said, literally at the last minute, I ended up getting a lawyer. They went over my case and he was like, no, this is a waiver stating that they can go to court without you. They don't have to let you know the court date, let you know what the judge says, whatever they was to ask for. Basically, the judge can grant it because, hey, I wouldn't be present. So I was just so thankful that, God was looking out for me, basically. And so just ever since then, ever since that one portion of it, I was like, okay, I wrote down everything that I experienced, every emotion, feeling, just everything, and just kept notes on it because during that time, I felt like it was very important. I didn't know then that I was going to actually become a divorce coach, helping other women go through their process. But as the journey kept going on, I just noticed some things and I was like, man, I don't want anyone else to go through this or feel like this or have to experience unnecessary things if they don't have to, just because they don't know, and a lot of times we end up in situations because we just don't know. So that's how my journey got started.
Your story is so similar to mine and so many of the other women I've interviewed on here, is where we went through a process, but we felt so alone in doing it that we just made a vow no woman should ever have to go through this.
Right.
So when you talk about that, tell me a little bit about what kind of support system you had or didn't have during your divorce. I mean, what about your family? What about your friends? What about, coworkers or your job? Like what was happening in your life that had you feel isolated?
Well, initially it started when I found out that he cheated on me and had a baby within our marriage. So for me, I felt embarrassed, ashamed. I was like, I don't want anybody to know this, I couldn't even wrap my head around it. So that's initially how I started to isolate myself. And then when the divorce process started, during that time, I didn't know anyone who was divorced. So everyone I knew was either single or married. So I was like, well, they can't help me because they're married, or they can't help me because they're single.
Exactly.
But my family did support me as far as being there for me, helping me out with my daughter, just giving me time and space to, deal with it and, be in my feelings and emotions. So my family was supportive that way, just not going through the divorce because, you know, like I said, everyone was married. So
Yeah,
that part I did have support on.
I totally connect with you on that. It was, I always say I was the first to get married and I was the first to get divorced in my circle, right? So there was nobody else that could relate, the people that I was the closest to, certainly. And my family was very, very supportive, and probably because everybody in my family was divorced or had been divorced. You know, at least my mom and dad were at the time. So it was easy to do that, but everybody else at work, to your point, I was ashamed, I was embarrassed. You're so much, and I don't know if you felt this way, you can share a little bit about this. So much of my identity was trapped in being a wife. And so failing at that, I couldn't own up to it felt like a failure to me.
Yes.
Did you experience anything like that in your divorce?
Yes, I definitely felt like that because I didn't even realize that I basically made my whole life about the marriage and my child. You know, once my child came, it was all about my husband and all about my child.
Yeah.
I honestly wasn't a person anymore. You know, that's how I felt as I started, going through everything in my healing process. Like I completely had lost myself. I didn't know what I liked anymore, what I liked to wear, what I like to eat, because everything had been whatever he wanted to do, whatever he wanted to do. And then like I said, when my daughter came, it was whatever she wanted or needed, so I really did not just know how to basically, like, I realized that I didn't even love myself or know how to love myself. So how could I even expect for a man to love me? And that was actually something that God pointed out to me, like, Shaletha, you did not love yourself. Not saying that it was a bad thing. I just didn't know how. A lot of us, we don't grow up hearing those type of things, like you have to work on yourself, you have to do this yourself, you have to do that. All I heard was you work, make money, and you provide for yourself.
You're right,
And
right.
So
Work hard. Yeah, work hard.
Right.
Take care of yourself.
That's what I did.
Yep.
Our words, I saved money. I had bought my first house at 25. I had a cash car. I was traveling. So for me, at that time, I was living life. But then when I got married, all these other things started happening, and I just completely became his wife. And that was it. I had no identity no more.
Yeah. Yeah. And how was that for you, kind of discovering that on the back end? Like, when you come face to face with, oh my gosh, I don't have any identity. How was that for you, discovering that?
It was very hard. Like, I cried. And that's one thing that I do tell women when I'm coaching them, like, if it's emotional, go ahead and cry, get that out. It's nothing you can do. That's a part of your past. You've done it, you lived it, however, whatever it is that we're talking about. Cry and get that out and figure out, okay, what I need to do now. How do I fix this? How do I, move forward? Like, that really hurt me to know, like, I just lost myself. Like, I couldn't even understand how I lost myself. Like, I was so I was really bummed that I did that, because in my head and according to everybody else, I was strong, independent, that I had it going on, everything together. And then it was like going through the divorce, it just almost broke me, like literally, to where even like when he did leave, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do about this house? What am I going to do with my daughter? And da, 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 da. And it literally took God speaking me to like, kind of like snap out of it. He was like, Shaletha, you was a whole person before you met him. You was paying bills, you was living life, you was doing all these things by yourself. Why now you acting like you don't know how to do anything? Right. And so just hearing that, it just really like stuck with me. And it was like, girl, what are you doing? You better, get yourself together and figure it out. So that was the turning point for me. Like, okay, I have to do something different. I have to get better and do better, just for my, for my child alone, not just for myself. So, yeah.
So, yeah, I totally get that, because you feel, I don't know, it was like I woke up and realized I was one of those whatever you like which
Yeah.
no one would define me as that. And I don't think it was as bad as that, but I lost the person that I was in the beginning. And when you look back, you're like, I don't know what happened to her. Like somehow or another, she turned into this sort of
Yeah.
frumpy, mousy, yesum kind of
Yeah.
person. And I don't know that he would describe me as that, but I felt that, which is irrelevant, but I felt that way about me. Like where was the essence of me in this?
Yeah.
And to
No, I
wake up,
completely understand.
yeah, and to wake up to it not here, like it's not in this relationship. And moreover, it's not even in my relationship with myself. In the absence of him, it's still not there. Like I had to reinvent it, recreate it, reclaim it for myself. So I totally feel you on that. So what was the impact on your faith in this? I know for myself, I had like, that was impactful to me. Like, so what was the impact on your faith for this? And you're a very spiritual person. I know your audience is mostly God-fearing women. So what was the impact on your faith in having to go through this, this divorce?
Yes, that was definitely a journey for me. Initially, I did back away from God because during that time, my ex was a minister at the church, so we were serving. I was on like 3 ministries. I was active, doing the things that I thought a wife should do. I never asked myself what I wanted to do. I was just doing whatever they pretty much told me to. And that was another thing I realized, that I had became a people pleaser. And I didn't realize that because, like you said, it was whatever you wanted to do, whatever your family wants to do, whatever they said, I had to roll with it instead of just speaking up and having a voice that I normally would have had. I became a people pleaser. So, and that bothered me a lot.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's a very public, when your husband is in ministry or he's a minister,
Yeah.
you're the wife of, that's a very public position as well.
Right.
And you're called to serve. So I'm guessing, I know I would have certainly felt,
Right.
I'm supposed to do this, like, right, I'm called, or then I shouldn't have gotten with a man who had this calling on his life, because now when the two become one from a faith perspective, this is our mission. This is who we are trying to become.
Right. Well, initially he wasn't. So I think that's what tarnished my faith, because I was the one in church and going to church and, building my relationship with God. And then eventually he started going to church and, said that he was called to preach. And I'm like, okay, that's your business, whatever.
Right.
I'll be here and support you. But, that wasn't my ministry. That's how I felt, during that time. But it was definitely hard because, like you said, everybody's looking at both of us. So I felt like I had to show up no matter what. Like there would be days where we would just argue before we got to the church, or he would just curse me out before we walked in. And it was just so hard to where I couldn't take it anymore, because I'm at church but don't hear any of the message. I'm at church crying on the inside, trying to keep my tears in and trying to just look the part basically. And eventually I just stopped going, because I was like, Lord, I don't understand. How could you let this happen to me? Like, I literally blame God for everything that happened. Then I was like, I have this child, like you gave me this child. Why would you let this happen to me and my child? Like, what are we supposed to do? And that's why, like, in part of my story, I talk about how God is just, good and patient and loving. Like, he loves us through it all. Like, even though I turned my back on him, he did not turn his back on me. So eventually, it was just like, he just started speaking to me left and right. And I'm just like, whoa, I never had this before. So, what is this? And, just basically like reassuring me, giving me the validation, and and if you have a relationship with God, you know how he operates. He was telling me about myself, telling me about my mistakes, telling me what I did wrong, telling me why I ended up in that situation. And at the end of the day, he was right. I got married by myself. I didn't ask God, was this the man for me? Was I supposed to get married? Or what was I supposed to do in the meantime? Like after we set a date or whatever. Like, I didn't ask no questions. In my head, I thought, wow, this man proposed to me, so he must love me. And I just rode with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like I said, at the end of the day, you reap what you sow. And I know now this is part of my process, and I'm thankful for it. Initially, I did not like it. I was mad. And then especially when God started to speak to me about helping other women and becoming a life coach, I was like, no, that can't be God. How can I help somebody when my relationship failed? How can I speak to somebody when my husband left me? So all the negative thoughts started to creep in. And I was just like, nope, God didn't tell me to do that. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And I sat on that for a while. I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. And I didn't move for a long time until he gave me a deadline. Like, I need to get the name that he gave me registered. I needed to, also during that process, he had me to start writing, which I had never did before. He was just like it literally, I think one day after my husband left, he said, start writing. And I was like, write what? I don't know what to write. I'm not a writer. I don't know big words. I was just giving all the rebuttals in the world. And he just said, write. So finally, when I submitted, I said, okay, if you want me to write, you have to help me write and give me the words to say. Before I knew it, I had a whole book written. I remember things. Well, I wrote things that I didn't even remember, things that happened basically from my childhood up, which is why now I speak about how the enemy starts to shape us when we're little girls. He put these things in our paths to try to stop us from becoming who God created us to be. So that's a part of my coaching process also. Like, you have to journal, because especially if you seeking God, he's going to be speaking to you every day, all day. There is no time frame or time limit. So you have to journal because you don't know where your story is going to go after that initial breakup or divorce.
Yeah, sometimes things are happening for you in the moments that they feel like they're happening to you, but really it's for your greater good. But I want to rewind just a little bit, because I'm imagining the person that was so connected to God and then having to go through this process questioned a lot. I know for myself, the word I would use is I felt abandoned. So I was like, I'm a good person. I'm a good woman, a good wife. I've been good to other human beings. What, I go to church, or I pray, or I read my Bible, whatever I was telling myself at that time. And then I felt like, for lack of a better term, probably the same thing I said to my daughter's dad is, how could you do this to me?
Yes.
Probably the same type of conversation. How did you rebound from that? Like, where were you in that process? I know for mine, like, that was probably, I guess because I'd felt abandoned by God, I didn't feel, me personally, I didn't feel worthy. What was that like for you? And then how did you like really overcome that?
I also felt abandoned because for me, I was like, well, even though that was my first marriage, but as far as like relationships, here we go again. The man always leaves, the man always cheats. Why does this happen to me? Like you said, I'm a good person. I'm caring. I'm loyal. I work hard.
Yeah.
I bring money into the house, all these things. I was like, then I
do all the things.
I was like, I had this beautiful child, so I could make cute babies. Like, it was just
right?
like a whole lot that I was saying. Like, oh my goodness, like, I just don't understand what was wrong with me. And then it was like, the more I got into the word, and that's why God say meditate on his word, because Holy Spirit literally does guide you like where you're at that moment. So it was just reading the words on, like, I'm beautiful, I'm fearful, I'm wonderfully made, like, God loves me, God cherishes me, we're the apple of God's eye, and just reading those things. And then I got to the point where, okay, I need to say these and not just think them. I need to say them out loud, because if you say them out loud, you hear it, and then I feel like it gets into you by saying it out loud. So even to this day, I call them the I ams. I say my I ams every day. And when I'm coaching women, I help them say, well, I don't tell them what to say, like they need to pull it out themselves from God. But that is an assignment that I do as well. Like, you need to say your I ams, because that's what's going to help you get through this. When you know that you are enough, when you know that you are worthy, the situation goes by much smoother, in my opinion. Of course, it's still going to be hard. You're going to have your up and downs because you're dealing with another person. Y'all may not be on the same page, but if you do feel some type of way, get back into that word, because the word is what's going to heal you. You can have all the doctors in the world, all the medications, all the things that you don't need, but the word is the only thing that's going to heal you. Because I actually did go through a depressed stage and went to the doctor, got put on medication. And it was like after a month, God was like, what are you doing? It's nothing wrong with you. Stop taking that medicine. I was like, but, you know, here I go again. And he was like, no, there's nothing wrong with you. And this is the funny thing he told me. He was like, he not over there crying and worried about you. So why are you over here making yourself sick? Because that's what we do. Right. Nobody makes us sick. We make us sick with the worrying, the stressing.
Yeah. Becoming
mean, angry, bitter. Like, I became all that. I was like, no, I'm going to hate him forever for doing this to my daughter. Yep. I was like, Lord, I don't care. This is the one thing that I'm going to fight you on, because I want to hate him. And, you know, God, okay, child, whatever, you know.
Right. Do what you have to do until one day you go,
yes,
this is not a sustainable way of being in my life. And moreover, in my case, it doesn't serve you or your daughter. Like, you do yourself and your daughter and him a disservice. You know, was there any particular I am or scripture or book that really, like,
initially it was Stormy, I don't know the whole name, but it was The Power of a Praying Wife.
I read that. Yes. So I was all over that book for the first, I don't know how long. Yes.
See, that's why I said initially it was that book, and then it became the Bible for me, because at that point, like I said, I had stopped going to church as well. So what I need to read the Bible for, you know? So initially that was the first book that I read. And then it was like, okay, I have to change. I have to do the work. You know, it became me. And because I was saying, well, Lord, he did this. Lord, he did da, 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 da. And it's like, no, what did you do? Or what can you do? And what can you do different? So
yeah,
that I did read that book initially. And that's what helped me get back on my path to, you know, wanting to see God and spend time with God, and just knowing what it was that he had for my life. And, you know, for my daughter as well, because she's going on this journey with me. You know, I pretty much take her everywhere. She knows about the book. She helps me sell books. Like, we've even written a book together, a children's book.
Wonderful.
And so it's like, she's literally a part of my process as well. So I have to keep going no matter what. I cannot get, like you said, get down and sad, because this is for her as well.
Yeah. My daughter was my inspiration throughout it. And just to your point, like asking myself the question, who do I need to be for her? How can I set an example for her? You know, and that's what would, you know, got me out of my funk. But I hear you a lot of, and I'm not against medication. I think some people need it. I think for some people, their despair is such that they need support to get out of it. And I also know for some, it's a Band-Aid. And it's just like, people are just trying to, like, put a Band-Aid on it so you don't have to deal with what it is you need to deal with.
Yeah. And that's what I did, basically. I really didn't need it. I was just like, if I take this, I don't think about it.
Yeah.
And that's how it worked for me. It didn't make it. I still have to get up and work. I still have to be a parent. So it was like, I couldn't just lay around all day.
I know for myself, I talked to a couple people and they wanted to do the same thing, but I kind of thought, I feel like I need to be in action and not placating. Now, that was my story. I know for a lot of women watching this, that's not your story. And I'm not advocating for anybody to do anything against their doctor's, you know, recommendations or what they feel is best for them. At the same time, I knew that it was not a mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
It was I was wounded spiritually. My heart hurt. And that was
Right.
different. And I was like, no pill is going to get rid of that. It's something I have to move through. And I wanted
Mm-hmm.
more tips on how do I move through it, like, if not gracefully, then at least
Yeah.
peacefully, like be at peace with, like, it's going to be a roller coaster ride, but in the end, you're going to get off and you're going to walk away. Right.
Right.
I kind of wanted
Yes.
that type of thing. What are some of the IMs that really, like, every day, as soon as I say this, like, I'm in the zone?
So for me, just learning God and learning. So like, well, in rewind, I didn't know my father growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that I was taught that, hey, I didn't know how to accept really a man for real.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I just developed my own way and then how to accept God. So for me, it's like, I am loved, to
Mm-hmm.
take back. I don't need to be loved from a man because that
Yeah,
may not be what real love is, so
that's a
I
really good
am
one.
loved. I am enough, because you get to that place where you're like, oh, well, what's wrong with me? What did I do? What did I do?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just out of your control. It's
Yeah.
nothing that you did.
Mm-hmm.
I am worthy because initially it was like, well, you'll never find nobody again, oh, da 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 da. And it's like, no, I am worthy of love because God said so, one. And two, he created all of us to, be with somebody, whether you do get married or don't. But
Mm-hmm.
I do feel in my heart that I am supposed to be married. So like I say I am worthy. I
Mm-hmm.
say that I am a wife
Mm-hmm.
because, hey, we're married to God first and then the husband would come. What else? Of course I say I'm a mother, and just those main ones I say, like, literally off the top, just reassure me that I'm loved no matter whether I hear from a man, woman, whoever. I know that I am loved every day because God let me live. So for me, that's why I say not just the physical or, romantic. I'm loved because he woke me up every day.
Right.
I'm loved because, he's given me this business or the books, just the desire to write and just help other people. So I feel like that's love to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the one of my IMs, if you will, and I've never called them that, but they are, is just I am loved, and no comma or because, like, I just am,
Yeah.
period. Like, it's a
Mm-hmm.
complete sentence. There's nothing I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes I'll say, I am loved exactly as I am and exactly
Mm-hmm.
as I am not. Like, there's certain
Yes.
things I'm just not, and I'm not going to,
Right.
and I have no interest in being. And that doesn't make me any less love not being it,
Right.
or even being some things that I wish I
Mhm.
wasn't, but I
Yeah.
still am, right? And
Yeah.
I hold on to that. You are loved exactly as you are, exactly as you're not. You are loved,
Mhm.
period. You're just
Mhm.
loved. So that's
Yes.
really a huge one.
Yeah.
I was, for me, I meditated on the book of Proverbs.
Mhm.
My mom's, my mom, my mother, my former mother-in-law, and we're still close. And my stepmom would probably say, oh yeah, she's, because I used to quote it all the time because that was my jam. Like,
Mhm.
I really meditate. I like, that was, it was because it's like wise, it's a book of wisdom, and it
Mhm.
really
Yeah.
just would frame stuff. And for me, I like meditated in there, just things that I just would pull out when I would feel like that tightness in my chest. Is there any
Yeah.
particular book or like one scripture you said to yourself that was like, this is like when I need to be like grounded, because he's calling me, or I'm frustrated, or I feel embarrassed, or people at the church are telling me what I should be doing, what they think always has nothing to do with this, they're not even involved, or friends have
Mhm.
abandoned me. What was the scripture that grounded you, if you have one?
Initially I started with songs
Mhm.
because of
A good one too.
the hurt.
Yeah.
And like I said, I didn't want to forgive. So I continuously say, even to this day, Lord, created me a clean heart. Take away anything
Yes.
that's not of you, that's in me. I constantly say that, wash me clean. It was just like a whole pruning process
Mhm.
as well. So, he literally does begin to wash you, clean you, depending on how he speaks to you, change your name, give you new DNA, all those things that he says. So for me, it was the whole book of Psalms, like just all of it, because I needed to be free. And I needed to figure out how to like let go of that hurt and pain. And like you said earlier, to just know that it was gonna be okay. Because for some reason in my head, I just thought that was the end. I don't know why, but I literally thought that was the end. And here I am years later, better than I was being married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Psalms is a very loving book, I find. And so a lot of the Psalms feel very, for lack of a better term, like comforting, like they're like a blanket. And so I'm imagining there's, just some really good nuggets in there.
Therapy, right? And it's a therapy session.
Yeah, because you'll read those things and you're like, oh, I'm so loved and I don't know how I feel.
Right. No, you're right, because it was times where I would be myself. I'm like, Lord, how can I let this man change me? Or not just him, but how can I be so like this over a man when you saying this, especially when I really like owned in about him dying on the cross, just those things and how he took it and didn't say anything. And I was like, that couldn't have been me, so I just had a different perspective.
Oh my God.
A different perspective on life, reading the Bible. So that is the first thing that I do tell women. What did God say? And then get into your word. If you didn't hear anything, so that he can tell, because I can only tell you so much, but you still have to do the work and you still have to build a relationship with God, or you're going to be looking at me as your God. And that's definitely not what I want, because I'm nobody's God.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting point, because one of the things that at least I notice, or that women do, is we turn our spouses into mini gods, little g, and we worship, that's why we lose our identity in that, because we're, you've made into him like an idol. You've made him into an idol. And so when the marriage falls apart, you're now questioning, who am I? I'm not who I thought I was. And I really, when I saw that for myself, like I wouldn't have said that about myself, because I'm so independent, but I really saw that, what did it say? It's like, I made him my happiness guru. And so if he wasn't doing whatever, fill in the blank, then I wasn't happy, or then I would have to make him happy, so then I would be happy, and so forth. That's like that's a major epiphany. And for you to see that for yourself as a coach, because then there's in that wounded state, there's a lot of transference going on. Now I don't have my husband, but I would hitch my wagon to this coach, and she's amazing, and she's she's going to be the one that pulls me through, instead of really letting them. No, you have to develop your own spiritual walk and your own reliance on yourself, and you do that through building your faith. And faith is one of the, I talk about my 5 pillars, but faith is one of those pillars, no matter what your faith is. I mean, I support all women in that. But still, you have to have your faith as an anchor for yourself, because most of us have put our faith in a man, and how's that working out for us? Right.
Right. Yes. Definitely building that relationship does help, because, it helps you become a person, and like it helps you to not get in that same type of relationship again, because you won't go looking for a man or looking for that, when you should have everything you need already within you. And just being by yourself, even like last year, God was challenging me to take myself out on dates, go inside a restaurant and sit. And I was like, Lord, I don't do that. I will order food to go in a minute, but to just go in and sit at a table by myself, it was so challenging. But hey, I had to do it, because one, he told me to, but it's like, I'd rather be obedient than just being rebellious, just because like it didn't hurt me to go out and sit at a restaurant, even though I was nervous, and most of the time I ate and left. But I don't know what his plans are, using that as part of my life. But hey, I get out there, I do it. I try to make myself look available. I haven't met anyone yet, but I know, he's preparing me for when that time does come. And I'm here for the challenge because I'd rather have a God relationship versus a worldly one. So I'm definitely going to follow God's orders versus, my fleshly orders, my fleshly desires.
Yes. I think going out, I've done that many times. In fact, I joke about it because there's some things there's some movies I actually pick and choose. And I'm like, I actually don't want to see that with anybody. I want to enjoy myself. Like, this is my night.
Right.
And so I did that recently. I haven't been to the movies since the pandemic. And I wanted to see Top Gun because I'd seen it when I was a young girl, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to see the completion. And I took myself out to do that. But I never have had a problem doing that. Initially, I've thought, people are going to think this is a little odd. And then I think once you do, for me at least, I did it the first time, then I was off to the races. I did find that the more, there's solitary things like the movies, which are fine to do. But once you do the movies and then you do dinner at a table, and then you go, I'm going to sit at the bar. I think I want to talk to some people. And then you go from the bar to, I'm going to go to this event where there's, engagement. And then you go from that event, I'm going to buy a ticket to like, it kind of gives yourself a perpetuating thing. And then really you start to feel good about your life because you're not home every night watching Netflix and chilling. You're actually, when people say, what did you do? You're like, oh, I went, I had tickets to such and such, and I went and did such. Really?
Yeah. And it helps build your confidence. So like one of the things that I challenged myself this year is to go on a trip by myself. I have never done that. I still don't know how to do it, but
you'll love it. I've done it a couple times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like we have to, just love everything about ourselves, whether, like you said, good, bad, ugly, flaws and all. Like, you just have to be able to be okay and comfortable being by yourself, because it may be years before if you're waiting on God, it may be years before you find somebody. But if you're doing it yourself, you can find somebody easily. But
yeah, you can find somebody, but you're not, I always say, in my prayers, I'm not interested in somebody. I want my king. Yeah. And there's a difference. And even in my coaching, I'm like, there's a man, biology. He's got the right anatomy. The man, a man who is really a good man. He is the man by all standards. He is a good person, but he's not yours. And you know that for whatever reason. It's not that he's not a good person. He's got the right resume, but he's not really the one for you. And you know that. And then there's your king, your man. And there's a distinction. But I think we kind of hang out with the man because they got the right resume instead of finding our man, my man. And you're really looking for that. And that's not people always say, there's 100 billion people. I don't even want 100 billion people. You just want one, right? You just
want the one. I'm good.
So you are right. You can go out and quickly you find, hey, it is 7:36 Eastern. By 8 p.m. if you wanted to, you could have yourself set up. Really, you could have yourself set up. But if you want quality and love and affection and somebody who's really going to be with you, you really have to be grounded in who you are and who you are spiritually, because you want to find your complement. You don't want to find somebody who's just a placeholder.
No, and see, I learned early on too. So I can't say that I've been good this whole time. Initially, I was like, well, he out there doing his thing, I had, started working on myself. I changed my diet, exercising, so I was losing weight. So I started feeling myself, getting confidence in myself. And so I did start hanging out with somebody. But God was like, no, that's not your husband. He's a counterfeit. Not a counterfeit as far as like taking my money or things like that. But it's like when you're asking, especially when you're being specific, God would, tell you things and help you out along the way. So he was like, no, that's a counterfeit. Stop talking to him. And I was like, but why? He cute and all these
Like I
things.
said, he's got the right resume. He's gainfully employed, heterosexual. He's got his own. He's debt free. His teeth are healed, right?
Right. And see, I'm big on teeth.
Yeah, he's
so
a good man. He's got a nice
the
smile.
hygiene.
His kids are the right age, or he doesn't have a lot of he's the right guy. His resume looks right. He looks good on paper. Yeah.
Right.
But there's something you knew, right? Something deep down here.
But it was crazy. It was like, Lord, really? Why? But I was like, okay, like for me, I'm the type, you don't have to tell me once. I've learned my lesson. I do it, so I was like, okay. And I haven't talked to anyone since. It's not my time and I'm okay with that. Everybody like, oh, get out there and date, but I don't want to date. So I'm not going to date. Like, women have to understand, you don't have to date to find somebody if you're waiting on God. Mm-hmm. God will tell you when to move. He'll tell you when to go to that store. That man may just be at the store. That man may be at the gas pump. So it's like when you get in tune with him, Holy Spirit is going to take you wherever you need to go. I don't have to go out here and talk to 50,000 men just so I can say, oh, I'm dating. I'm trying to find somebody. Right. I don't want to date. Right. And God knows that. He knows I don't want to date. And I feel strongly in my heart that I won't have to date. I really do.
You'll be put in the right place at the right time to meet the right guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I want to hang out here for a minute because I think this is important. Because I think for a lot of women, we rush this process. We're barely healed. The ink isn't dry. You've not, except for the times you had to, you've not spent any time alone processing and healing. How did you really find the strength to do that? Because I know for some women, like that being alone is really, really hard. Well, how do you work with your clients to really like be in that in-between space? Because to your point, that space could be 6 months, a year, 2 years, 6 years, 10 years. There's not any timeline.
Yeah.
So how do women do that? And I think that's what they're afraid of. There's I'll be 67 when
I'll be single forever.
I'll be too old to enjoy him. Like, how do you, support women and moving past that limited thinking?
Yes. So it's important for you to realize that you have to do the work. Like you have to heal. If you don't heal, you're going to just pick up another, I'll finish another straight, but another something that's going to cause you issues or problems, instead of just being patient and waiting. Because what I found out was you're going to get triggered. Yeah. Healing does not happen overnight. So you're going to get triggered by something, somebody, something. And for me, it's like, okay, the first time you triggered, then that's how you know you're not ready. Mm-hmm. That's how you know you're not healed. Of course, we're going to be triggered forever. I'm not saying that, but it shouldn't be this whole big old thing that takes you here, there, you just go rah with it. Like, no, you need to be healed and whole and complete. Like a lot of people think that, oh, I'm 50, he 50, then we become 100. No, you have to be 100 and he has to be 100. Yes. You can't be coming to him 50%. You still need work then.
Right.
You're not healed. You don't know yourself at 50%, because you could lose your job tomorrow and then what? So you have to be 100% whole and just knowing who you are, loving who you are, and being okay with being by yourself. And I always go back to God. You have to ask God to help you. You have to ask God to take that loneliness from you. Mm-hmm. You have to tell God to take those sexual desires from you, and he will. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You think that happened overnight for me? It sure did not. But I knew the assignment on my life. So I was like, Lord, I know you're the only one that can help me with this. It's not humanly possible for anybody to get through that themselves. He's the only one that's why he says that you're never lonely. I'm right here with you. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's important for you to start dating yourself, because then it gets to the point where you're dating God in reality. You ask him, hey, what do I wear today? Hey, do you want to go to lunch today? Like, that was part of my process. Mm-hmm. Like, Lord, what you want to do today? Which, and that's how, as my friend, that's how I talk to him, because, he's supposed to be our father, our friend, our lover. And, I break all those down because we're not taught those things either. So a lot of us don't even know that we're supposed to do that.
Yes. Yeah.
Even when I go to the store, I'll be like, God, can I buy this? Even for me going live, I asked what to look like. Like he is very intentional with his people, with his children, and especially his daughters. He wants us to look a certain way. He wants us to carry ourselves a certain way. When I was going through my process, I went and bought all these little bitty clothes, put my belly ring back in,
You
God
went
was
for
like,
it. Yeah.
he was like, girl, no, ma'am, what are you doing? And I was like, and he was like, no, that's not what I want you to do. You need to ask me. And that's when I learned, like, wow, he tells you how to wear your hair. He tells you to wear makeup or not to wear makeup. Like, it's just a whole process. So for me, that's more of what my coaching is. Like you said, you can have any religion, but you still have to get in tune somehow. You can't just go through this process by yourself.
Yes, you have to find a way to tune into whatever your spirituality is, or you feel lost and alone. And then it's so much, what happens, I think, for so much of us is it's so much easier to just rely on people, but people let you down. They're imperfect creatures. We're not, and actually that's just transference. It's transferring one codependent relationship, which was you to someone else. And in that, what happens is that's a transaction, and all transactional relationships, once the transaction is complete, whatever you're exchanging, they end, right? When you go to, when you go to the grocery store and you pay your money and you leave with the groceries, that's the end of that relationship until the next time you come back. And for a lot of us, if we're commodifying men to fill a void for that time, when the void is over and they fill it, you leave. And for some of us, we're making it more than just that transaction. And that's where the stuff comes. And all we're doing is transferring one codependent relationship. And that's not healing. That's just hopping from one thing to the next. Yeah. And whether or not that you make a man your next God, for some ladies, it's work. We become workaholics. For some ladies, we transfer to our children become everything. And then we're like holding on to our kids, and then our kids, we have not so great relationships with our children because we don't want to let them go. We're holding on too tight, and they're meant to grow and all that other stuff. And you see kids going, my mom won't let me do anything, because you're holding on so tight. I mean, there's all these different ways we do it. Or Netflix, for some people it's wine, for some people it's food, you gain weight. All these ways you're creating it's basically the same codependent relationship, because you haven't found a way to get to make as my grandfather would say, go and make yourself even, which is really go and get yourself aligned spiritually, so that you now know what you need to do in your life. And so many of us, we don't take the time to do that. We just don't. And especially when it comes to finding your king, your man, if you haven't healed from the last man or men, you just basically perpetuate that same relationship. You're just picking the same relationship with a different name. Right?
And then you carrying that one bag on to the next one, the next bag, the same bag. And it's like, how many bags do you want to carry, ma'am? Like,
yes.
Do you want to be free and, not heavy or bogged down, or you want to just keep carrying this luggage around, Yep.
And I love that analogy, because almost like every relationship is like a big rock. You just put another rock in this backpack. But somebody said this great quote. I don't know where I saw it. Baggage is only baggage if you carry it. And so we're the ones actually adding the rocks and choosing to carry it instead of choosing our healing. I'm going to choose the luggage. And every time you're with a guy and you don't, get yourself healed and whole, if you don't really look at what your patterns are, if you're not, to your point, doing your work, like really doing your work, you're choosing to carry that backpack. And basically you just added another rock to it. And then by the time you're done, you're like, I don't understand. why I have this backpack and it just keeps sitting there and following me around and it's dragging me down. It's heavier and heavier and I got back problems now and I got all this. It just keeps compounding.
Right.
And one day you look up and you're like, I'm all hunched over and I don't know what I don't know where my time went, where my life went, where it was spent. And like, open your backpack.
Right.
Because, you know, they'll say, if you want to really know what you care about, look at the things that you surround yourself with. And if you got a backpack full of rocks, which is stuff you never dealt with, that's really where your treasure has been, in the drama and trauma of your life, instead of the healing and wholeness of your life.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah. So what's your like number one thing that you would offer to women? Because I know, like, especially in the beginning, initially, that faith walk, it was so like, I get it. Like, cause I was there myself. Like, I just felt like I'm so like lost and alone. And how could you like,
Right. Yeah.
talk about dramatic, right? I felt like that. What's that little gecko that goes, I have a flat tire.
Yes.
I was like, you love me. I didn't say I'm a good person.
Right.
How do you transition that to really get yourself back in alignment? What's your really one like big piece of advice to help people get back in alignment with their faith?
First, I tell them, like, you have to do the work. It's not a cakewalk. The divorce is not going to go away, or the pain, the healing, whatever it is. You have to want to do the work, and then we go from there. You know, I listen to, you know, what they say, where they are at, and then I go from there. Like, a part of my 6-week coaching program is like, you know, talking about divorce in the workplace. Like, how do you still go to work, you know, while you're going through a divorce? How you still function when you're a zombie, you know? I talk about finances in divorce, because some women don't know about the money that goes on in the house, or the bills that goes on in the house. So it just depends on exactly where the woman is. I talk about kids, you know, speaking with your kids about divorce, because in reality, they go through the divorce as well. They don't go through every emotion and verbal thing that goes on, but they experience some things. They know something is happening, you know. What else I talk about? Just dealing with the emotional in it, emotional of divorce. I talk about forgiveness. Like, you have to forgive, you have to let go, all that. And then, like I said, I talk about God, journaling, you know, just all those different things. So I actually do just have a coaching program, and it's like those things, or every week we're talking about those different things to help you navigate and get through the process. Because, you know, like you said, you've been there before. There's really no set rule or way to go, but you have to start somewhere, and you have to go through all those things anyway, you know, to be able to move forward.
Yeah, I often say it's not where you start, it's how you finish. And you choose how you finish. So you have a 6-week coaching program. Does it have a name? Do you want to share with us where, you know, and
it's just for that, it's just 6-week divorce coaching, and for that. But I do have another group coaching called God Restored, aligning you with your purpose. And that is basically, you know, moving on from your past hurts, your traumas, past relationship hurts, like whatever it is that you're going through, and you just feel lost or stuck. Or you may feel like, hey, I don't know what my purpose is. You know, it may not even have to deal with a man, but you're just like, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing more, or this and that. Like, I help you pull out those things that are within you that you don't know that you have. Because sometimes it just takes another person to see things in you that you just can't see. You know, so it's just catered to pulling out those things within you to help you get into alignment with, you know, the plan that God had for you, because we all are here for a purpose. Even though sometimes it doesn't feel like it or seem like it, but in the Bible it states it, so it's to be true. You know, I always reference back to the Bible, because like I said, I can't take credit for anything. I can't say, well, I said this, or if you do this, is this, you're gonna be. No, the Bible said that you are here, so let's figure that out. The first one is that we're supposed to be disciples, and but I do talk about that as well. Understanding purpose, knowing what purpose means. Like, I help you dig deep so that it just won't be this cookie cutter thing and say, oh, well, Shaletha told me this. No, that's not that's not how I operate at all.
Yeah, I totally hear you. And I think for some women, the challenge is going deep because we don't know what we're going to find, or we're afraid of what we know is already there. And the beauty of working with someone like yourself and in community with other women is that you actually don't have to face those things by yourself. So that's really great. So where can we find you online? Give us your handles just really quickly. And for those watching, I will drop these in the show notes and in the links in there, but where can we find you?
On Facebook, I am Shaletha Lynn Marshall. On Instagram, I am divorcecoach_. And you could just reach me on my website. It has for a free consultation. It talks about the different coaching programs, and that is shalethamarshall.com.
Wonderful. We'll make sure we put all your handles in there. So we're going to do real quick round robin, some rapid fire questions, because I like to end on this. So what is bringing you joy right now?
What is joy right now is my daughter, and then just being able to help women, help them see things that they may not have seen within themselves, and just helping them to realize that there is more after you go through a breakup or divorce. That like I said, even with me, we are a person before we get with that man. So just getting back to being yourself and knowing who you are. I actually wrote another book called 30 Days to Self-Love. And that was something that I did literally for myself every day, doing this, that. And, God had me write those things down. And it's like, man, I didn't even realize I wasn't doing just those simple things alone. Getting up, going walking, getting up, getting dressed. Like for some people, they say, oh, getting dressed is so hard. It just takes so much work. But no, sometimes you have to just even get dressed to just, even if you're going to sit on the couch, get dressed and sit on the couch. I'm not saying you need a full face of makeup and like go get your hair done and blow dry, but just getting dressed or smelling good even changes the atmosphere. There are plenty of days where I sit here and light me a candle and I'm like in heaven.
Yes. I was talking to the last guest I had on, or maybe it was one before that, said that they do, it was one before that says that they do yoga by candlelight. And I was like, wow, I never thought to light candles, but what a great idea. I like candles, but I just never thought to do it during my yoga session.
Yes, I would light a candle and sit and read a book. Like, that's my happy place.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what would be the theme song for your life right now? I know, isn't that it? I always think about that. Like, what's the theme song for my life, right? My theme songs change. So that's why I said right now, because it could be a different one.
I don't know right now. I can't remember. Well, I can say the Kiara Shield, Tasha Cobbs song. I don't know if this is the correct title, but it says Something Has to Break. I don't know what the name is, but like, I just stand firm on that. Like, whatever was holding me back or thinking it had me is broken off. It's gonna break, because God has other plans for my life. So that was on repeat for a long time.
I hear you. So what's a fierce diva decision you've made recently? Like you were like, yeah, this is happening. Like it was a fierce decision that you made.
I don't really have to make that many decisions, but when I did my 3-day challenge that I did last month, that was definitely out of my comfort zone. Even though I go live and I speak in my group or whatever, but just doing a challenge, talking to people about, I had 2 other guests and we just basically told our life stories on where we were and how we got here as to serving God and saying yes to God. So that was definitely different for me. And just to be on live 3 days in a row, that was a challenge for me, but I did it. I survived, and I took myself out to eat afterwards. I was proud of myself. I felt really good afterwards.
Awesome. What was the last, by contrast, I always say we either make fierce decisions or we make desperate decisions. What was the last desperate decision? And I encourage women, like, be present to when you're doing that. What was the last desperate decision you made?
I don't know. I haven't really, like I said, I haven't really had to make decisions. Desperate decision would be
like, I know one of mine, this was desperate. This was so interesting. And it's not like really, so I was at Costco and I bought some pastry thing. And the lady said, it comes with 2. And I said, I don't want to. And she was like, well, you don't want to leave money on the table. But, and so I went and got the other one. What am I going to do with 8 Danishes? So now I've got to figure out how to give them away. But that was desperate. Like, I'm not going to have the money. Like, I'm never going to get Danishes again. Like, these are the last Danishes ever. Like, Costco's going out of business. Instead of sticking with my original thing, was like, I don't actually need it. I can get it. And just, I could have left it on a counter and given it away. But I took it home. Like, I'm desperate for it. Was like, when I think about it, I'm like, that was really ridiculous. That was a very desperate decision. You should have just bought it and just dropped it off at the shelter or dropped it off at the front or left it with the lady herself and said, you give it away to somebody. I don't need it. That was a desperate decision, and unnecessarily, because I don't really need them. And I don't want them, which is, I don't know why. It was just, and it was bizarre too.
Right.
That's what I mean by, like, they don't have to be like desperate, but it's from a mindset that was lack. Like, when I look back on it, I was like, I must feel like I'm lacking something that I would have myself bring home 8 Danishes for myself. Like, I'm going to actually eat them, and I'm not.
No, I understand now. For me, the desperate situation was going to get gas. When the gas prices went up, I was like, man, I only have half a tank, even though I don't even go anywhere. But I did go out and get some gas to fill up just to make sure. I don't know why, because I really don't leave the house. I work from home. My daughter's school right down the street. Like, it's not like I need it, but for me, that was a desperate decision. Once the gas price had went up, I went to fill up just to make sure I had a car full of gas. So that was the last desperate thing that I did.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, we talk about our spiritual walk, when it's like, I think God, you're gonna, God's gonna take care of you. If you want another Danish, I think it's good. You know what I mean? Like, when you think about it, it's like, I think you're going to be okay without these, and you don't, in the moment, you don't think about it, but as I'm sitting here even thinking about it with you, like, when I do stuff like that, it's out of a place of thinking I'm not going to have something
that you're going to have enough,
instead of leaning into my faith. Like, when have you never not had the and I've been fortunate, and even if I have, I survived it, so it's fine. So interestingly enough, when was the last time you indulged yourself for the pleasure of it? Like, no reason, but just for the sheer pleasure of it.
Well, that is, well, I'm not sure where you live, but we have this bakery here called Nothing Bundt Cakes. And they came out with the new flavor. I think it was like the strawberries and cream. Knowing that I didn't need it, I really didn't even want no cake, but just because they kept sending that email, I literally got and went and got me a cake. Even though it was good, it was really good too. But I only ate half the cake, and I was like, see, I knew I didn't need that to get that cake, but it was so good. I was like, oh my goodness. So my weakness is sweets.
Hey, sister, you're in good company. That's my thing. As I talked about Danish, that's why I have, 8 Danishes sitting on my counter. What's it called? Nothing but Bundt Cakes? I think I've heard of them.
Nothing Bundt Cake. It's like BUDNT, something like that.
Yeah, are they just in the South? Because I visited my aunt.
I believe so.
And she's in Tennessee. And she was like, oh, well, you have to go to this place. And she told me about it. And we got Bundt Cakes, these little, and to your point, like, I can't eat all this. This is just too much.
It's too much, right?
It's too much, yeah. I think we ate it over several days. I'm like eating like little, it was just crazy. So.
Yeah, I believe it's just in the South.
Yeah, I think so too. It's not up here in DC, but yeah, but the cakes are good though. For those of you watching, plug for Nothing Bundt. You can go ahead and get yourself a cake, and they're really good. What are you reading right now? I know you're reading the Bible, but what else are you reading?
I'm reading this book by T.D. Jakes. I think it's called Knowing Your Instincts or something Instincts. I forgot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. And then what's next for you in your coaching life? You said
It's
you've
just
written 2 books, and so you've got a coaching program. Is there anything big on the horizon you want to share with us?
No, just continue to, help women and educate them on, where their process is at the moment, and just bringing more people to the kingdom until God says otherwise. But for now, that's my plan, is just to continue to coach women. And like I said, for the women who are single or however, that wants to just know their purpose and get into alignment with God, just coaching them that way as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I want to thank you for being here on the podcast and in the group. Thank you for sharing your story so candidly, so openly. I know for a lot of women, it's helpful to hear other people's stories, so you just don't feel like you're doing it alone. Whatever your story is, there's somebody out there that has something similar to what you are, and you're not alone. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being here with us. And I certainly hope to see you around, and our paths will cross again. Keep doing the good work.
Yes, thank you again for having me. And I appreciate you, and just appreciate you for, just taking your time to hear my story. So I really do thank you for that, and blessings to you and your business as well.
Yes, you as well. Blessings to you. And I always, as I tell my daughter, may God's favor be on your life.
Yes.
Happy Transformational Tuesday, and I will see you around the superhighway. Thank you.
I think to myself, what a wonderful world.